Hello and welcome to the Kerry Garden Show here on Radio Kerry, on Facebook, YouTube as well. We are here in Boyles of Killorglin and Trish has joined me again. We're in the sunshine. What a week. It's been a lovely week. Thankfully,
been a lovely week.
We got some nice weather, Trish.
Yes, it was very, very welcome, so it was.
Absolutely. So there's been lots of people out in the garden. They've been probably coming in with lots of questions, which we might get to a little bit later in the show.
Yep.
But we're going to start off talking about companion planting.
Yes.
So tell me about companion planting. How does it work and what can people do what does it do?
Yes, I suppose the benefits of companion planting would be the first thing. Now what we're doing today is companion planting for roses.
Okay.
Now I know you've probably heard me before saying roses are better off planted on their own.
Maybe once or twice.
Once or twice.
Yes, they've
but now
got
I'm
quite an
changing my
appetite.
tune again. Okay, you have a bed of roses and you're plagued with maybe aphids, or you don't think there's enough pollinators around and bees and butterflies and all that. So this is what companion planting is about.
And would a sign of that, Trish, be the fact that maybe the rose is not maybe blossoming as strong or hasn't as many buds on it and stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
That's it. Because say if you get the little green aphid that a lot of people know that comes in roses, what happens with that is the green aphid lands on the bud, right?
Okay.
And it stops it then from opening. It practically nearly chokes the bud really from coming out. So if they're not if they're not killed in some shape or form, the rose won't perform to its best ability.
Right. So if anyone who's out there and listening or watching, they don't know, or maybe they haven't asked the question, that could be the reason.
Yeah, and exactly, and it cuts down on using chemicals as well, which is very, very important. I mean, like, plants are so beneficial that people don't realise. Like, you'd look at a flower, you look at a shrub or a tree and you think it's just that and that's it. But you have to go back and look at the benefits of what it's supplying to ourselves, as in breathing in. Exactly, the whole lot. So what we're going to start off now, even though I'm saying it's companion planting for roses, they can be used in any shape or form for around vegetables. They can be used around shrubs that might be more prone to getting diseases,
apple
flies,
things like that. Anything, if you've got any of that,
anything like that. So I'm going to start off then with the yarrow. This one here, it's a lovely little perennial plant, very pretty pink. It's not just that they're flowers that are there, but they add to the colour and they're very, very pretty. Now that one actually attracts ladybugs.
Okay, so now tell me the importance of getting ladybugs into your garden.
So if you have ladybugs on this and attracts it, it doesn't do any harm to this yarrow plant or anything. The ladybugs will then go on to the roses where the green fly are, and that's their food.
That's their food, excellent.
So that deters the aphids then, so they're absolutely fabulous.
And you know what, it's been noticed as well too that there's kind of declining numbers of kind of ladybugs and stuff like that,
exactly. And we need to bring in more plants that will encourage them to come. So
we all remember being a kid wanting to have them, on our hand and stuff like that.
The dots on them.
But this is the actual the environmental effect that it has, so it helps kill the aphids.
Yes, it kills the aphids, so they're absolutely brilliant.
Looks really wild as well.
It does. Now when you're planting them, obviously you have your rose beds, so these would be plants that you'd actually have towards the front of the border or surrounding all the border of the rose bed itself.
Okay.
So just make sure, again, as we always say, that you get the right advice as to what height are plants, because you can get ones but they might grow too tall and then they all look a mess together in with the roses. So
you want to kind of keep them
keep them low and keep them 2 feet maximum.
Max.
2 feet maximum at the front, so they'd be lovely.
So is it like a defensive wall really we're kind of building?
You said it, Alan. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right.
Now that you're on about defensive, another problem that people have are deers and rabbits
coming
my
into
God,
the garden.
We all love the bunny rabbit,
I get loads of questions from people, from relatives around Kenmare and stuff.
Oh yes.
They come in, they're there.
Yeah, and they'll just demolish plants. And
any nice bed.
Yeah, you even think roses, now we have them here behind us, they're thorny, that they'll never eat it, but they will. They'll demolish it, no problem. So to deter the rabbits and the deers away, we have these which are called perennial geraniums. Now we were on about these last week as well in our seaside garden.
Yeah.
This is a lovely pink one and it's a lovely purpley one there as well. Again, these will be more kind of ground cover, grow to about 1.5 foot in height, spread out then about 1.5 foot in width, and it's the scent. That's what's deterring them away. That's what's deterring them away. Like, we might smell stuff and you think, oh my God, that's absolutely fabulous. But a rabbit or deer might look on it in a different sense.
Okay.
So it all depends.
Because they're thinking from a food perspective.
Exactly.
Because that's all they want. They're looking for food. And if they smell that, they're going to go, ugh.
Yeah. So if you have that on the outskirts of your beds then as well, that'll actually deter them from coming in. And also as well, you have your herbs.
Now, if you're talking about scents, this is the one we need to start good. So
you've
we've got
like sage, you've got lemon balm, you've got 2 different types of sage there first.
Yeah.
Now again, these all look lovely as well. And if you have your rose bed that's up near the front door, you can use these for your cooking then as well. So they're helping you to eat, and they're stopping the rabbits from eating.
Yeah. And it's a very subtle scent. So obviously the rabbits and the deer have very sensitive smell.
Exactly.
And they can kind of get it. Because to me now, I'm sniffing that, and there's actually not much of a smell off it.
There's not much out of a smell. But again, if they start eating that, right, and then once the leaf then goes, you can actually, that releases the scent.
Okay, right.
So and lemon balm is another one then as well. So you can imagine then a rose bed with all lovely fragrances. And then you have the herbs or the lavender. You have a lot of different scents going on, which are absolutely fabulous for ourselves then as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they do
and
the
edible
whole thing.
as
and
well,
edible.
which is another good thing.
Now another lovely one for a pollinator then as well, and to attract bugs in and bees and all that, is in the Nepeta, which is your catmint. And they're absolutely fabulous.
Lovely and flowering out the moment as
they're
well.
They're lovely as well with the roses, because the roses are kind of, they go up straight, they're quite rigid. And then you've got the Nepeta, the catmint, which is quite flowy. It actually softens that bed straight away. So there's a lot of different benefits going on, like it's kind of softening. You have the ladybugs, you're deterring the rabbits, the deers. You've got the nice flowers then as well. Now these are actually quite pretty in front of it. These are salvias. I have 2 different types here now.
The blue is stunning.
That is absolutely fabulous.
Really lovely.
And you can imagine then if you'd got a red rose behind that.
Oh wow.
And again, now when I was on before about roses and kind of keeping to maybe 1 or 2 colours in a bed. Don't go mad mixing colours either of all your perennials. So like if you had blues, you could have the deeper blue and then maybe the lighter blue, or you have a lovely pale pink there as well. Just to match your colours with the colours of your roses then as well. And that's another nice little salvia then as well. And that's actually more compact.
Very
and
small.
It's more rigid, and again it's lovely little soldier-like as well. Even if you had climbing roses up against the wall and you've got a bed in front of it, now the climbing roses would have a good root system, so there wouldn't be much around it.
You couldn't get too close to them.
No, exactly. But it's nice to have something flowy down at the base, because always with climbers you'll have a lot of leaf growth on the top of it, and all the flowers are on the top. You're missing a bit of colour down at the bottom. So if you had these salvias or the lavender or anything like that at the bottom, and it's lovely and flowy then as well, and just gives you that extra bit of colour.
I'm just so taken aback by that blue salvia. It's stunning.
And they also say that the marigolds then are great for deterring the aphids then as well.
Okay, so the aphids don't like this?
No, and even as well, I know we've gone on about tomatoes maybe later on in the show, if you plant a few marigolds around it, it stops the bugs coming in around your plants then as well.
So it looks nice, but those bugs don't like them.
They don't like them. No, they don't like them, and it keeps them away. And again, there's different forms of marigolds. The one you have is an African marigold, which is the big head, and they like the French marigold, which is the smaller heads.
Ones.
So what I would do with them is even put a few clumps here and there throughout the bed. Now again, it all depends on the colouring of your roses, because the yellows and the oranges, they're quite bright,
quite strong.
Quite strong. So just to blend it in nicely then with it.
And we have a few just kind of little the grasses as well too.
Now there's no huge benefit out of that, but it's just that it looks
when it
nice.
goes under, when you're talking about undergrowth and stuff like that, something like this
and
could
it
be
just
nice.
looks nice and it's flowy, and I think that steely blue colour is just lovely then as well, because you've got all the roses that are just the rich green leaf on it and the very vivid colours of the flowers, and the nice little steely blue grass underneath it would be fabulous.
Excellent, right, so that is basically a companion to so many different things in the garden, really. We've got our ladybug companions, we've got our rose companions, we've got our food as well, and getting rid of the rabbits and the deer, so that's fantastic. So that's some brilliant suggestions there. But as I said now as well too at the start, loads of people as well are coming in asking some questions.
They're
asking lots of questions. One of the most common one, and even I'm getting it as well too inside Radio Kerry, people are just still talking about the lawns and the daisies and the buttercups coming up. And while a lot of beekeepers would say leave them, the clover, it's all important to be there, there are still people who are looking to kind of get rid of them. So for anybody who wanted to do that, Trish, what's the best sort of thing to go?
Lawns are very important this time of the year. I mean, a lovely green serene lawn is absolutely fabulous, and if you're sitting out and enjoying it, or the kids are playing football on it, it needs to be nice. Now you were saying like people like to leave it for the bees and butterflies. You can always leave an area. You don't have to have the whole lawn full of clover or dandelions or daisies or anything like that. But anybody, as you say, that does want to get rid of them, there is a product called diclofar, Now you put that on, it's a liquid, so you'd put it on with a knapsack, or you would put it on with a watering can. All the directions are on the back of it. That will kill your daisies and your buttercups and your clover, right? It won't kill your grass. Now, a lot of people think, oh, sure, if I put that down, is all my grass going to die? It won't. It's specifically for lawns. Now, another one that you could put down, depending on weather conditions as well, you do have to get rain afterwards, is you could put a feed, weed and lawn killer down. Right? And that'll get rid of your daisies, your dandelions. It can feed the lawn then as well.
Enrich the lawn.
Now, when I say feeding the lawn, I don't mean that it's full of nitrogen, that it's going to...
It's not going to drive it on.
No, because nobody... We want to nice and relax as well, Alan.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't want to be cutting the lawn every
2 days. Jesus, yeah.
So that would be the lawn. So there is products out there if you again come in and we give you advice on how to do that.
Now, a lady contacted us during the week as well too, because remember we were talking about our trees and stuff just there a few shows ago, and a lady got on to me saying that she has 3 ash trees and they're at 3 different stages of dying. And she was wondering, is there anything she can do, or what might be the cause?
Right, well, it depends on the ash tree that she's planted. If it's the common ash, there is actually a disease in common ashes. It's called ash dieback. So, I mean, that's nationwide, if not worldwide.
Right.
I would recommend if it's that, or maybe if she comes in and brings me in a picture of it, I'd be able to identify if it's the common ash. I would recommend taking it out of the garden then straight away.
Right, because it's gone. There's
there's no hope for that. There's no chemicals. There's nothing that you can put on it to get rid of it. If it's the sorbus that we were talking about, the mountain ash that we were talking about a couple of weeks on the phone, again, if she comes in, I'll be able to explain it a bit better. But if it's that, it could be the conditions that it's in. Maybe it's too wet of an area. They don't like to be sitting in water.
The wet feet.
The wet feet,
it does affect them,
It does affect them. So maybe that's why they're dying gradually, is that the water is kind of basically killing them. So I'd say the best thing she could do is to come in, show me a picture, and I'd be able to go through which one she has then.
Great. Now, you mentioned about wet and stuff like that, and obviously with the weather we've had, we spoke and did a great program on hanging baskets. So what should people be doing now after this wet spell, heading now into this dry spell? Hopefully, please God, it'll last. But what are the things people should be looking out for?
With hanging baskets now, I mean, I suppose they would have been done up a month or 2 months ago, right? So the compost that went into them, the nutrient is going out of it now at the moment.
It would have been flushed out by some of the rain.
Exactly. So you need to boost it on. So basically the best thing to do is to feed them with a tomato food, because you want to bring on the flower of them. Another thing you have to do with hanging baskets as well, and window boxes or pots, whatever it may be, is to deadhead them. I know you say we're always on about deadheading, but it's so important for hanging baskets. So it's just a matter of pulling off the dead flowers. Because we had a lot of wind a couple of weeks back as well, the hanging baskets got an awful hammering in the wind. They were just bashed from side to side. So some of the stems of the plants, say for example, might be dying off. So what you do then is you cut back where the dead wood is, right to where you see fresh growth again. Any dead leaves or fungus leaves or anything underneath it, just to pull them out of it, and just to clean it up, and you'll be amazed how well it would look then once it's all clean. Everybody asks, how do we water baskets, or how often should we water baskets? So it's just a matter of lifting the basket from underneath if it's light, because we get such a diverse range of weather between rain and between wind and between cold, sunshine. So usually hanging baskets, if the sun is shining every day, whether it's morning or evening, don't do it in direct sunlight. That should be the best thing for hanging baskets.
Great. Now, has there been any other tips that you could possibly give?
Yes, a lot of people now are coming in that have planted tomatoes earlier on in the season, and they're wondering, what do we do with them now? And there's shoots coming out in every direction. So at the start we were saying, when you're planting your tomato, and what it is little side shoots coming out at the side, they have to be taken off, because otherwise then you have too much growth going on and there's not enough going. Now your tomato plant at this stage should be up to about the 5 feet high. So what I would do with that is pinch out the top of it. There's enough height on it now, because if you don't pinch out the top of it, it's just going to keep on growing and growing and growing. And again, all the nutrient, all the energy
is going to go to that.
So what we're trying to concentrate on now is the actual tomato. So once the flower comes out in the tomato plants, that's the time to start feeding them. So you feed them then with the tomato food. Watering wise then, about 3 times a week is probably plenty. irregular watering will cause cracking on your fruit. You might get a tomato and you'll see the skin of it cracked. And you're going, why is that? I've done everything right. I've watered, I've fed and everything. It's irregular watering.
So irregular watering. So try and keep
do it maybe 3 to 4 times a week should be plenty for it. Give it a good, maybe each tomato plant gets half a watering can. Give it a good soaking. Good
soaking, right.
Again, that depends if you've got wet weather. If we're getting weeks of wet weather, obviously there's not enough absorption of the moisture. So
but if they're in the greenhouse or
if they're in the greenhouse, they've got the heat and stuff like that. Again, as we were saying earlier, plant a few of your marigolds because you will find sometimes they do get the aphids on them just to do it.
And how about the rest of the crops that are growing?
Like garlic now, anybody that would have planted that very early in the season. Again, how do we know when garlic is ready? It's when the leaves are dying, they're nearly bending over and they're turning yellow.
Okay.
Right? They're ready for taking up.
That's when you know it's time to pull it out.
That's when you know it's to pull it. But what thing is then that you actually have to dry them out? It's the same as onions as well.
Yeah.
You just don't pull it up out of the ground and go
throw it in the kitchen.
No. You need to dry them out and what's called curing them. It brings the flavour back into the onion or the garlic. So you need to just put them out in the shed where it's it's dry or whatever.
Dry and they won't get any
Leave
moisture.
the dirt on them. That'll just cake off it. Leave the leaves on them. Even what some people do is just to hang them upside down, up high, and just leave them dry like that for a couple of weeks, and then you can use them.
Okay.
Another one as well is apple trees. People now have apples coming on their apple trees, and sometimes you can get maybe 8 or 10 small little apples coming together. But what happens with that, if you leave them 8 or 10 on, is
they won't all come to fruition.
No, they won't. And what could happen as well, because there's so many of them in a bunch together, they could drop. And you could actually have an awful lot. The weight of them, and you could have a lot of dropping and less apples. So what I would do with that is to thin them out. And when you thin them out, then the apples that are there to stay on the tree, they will actually be nice and big.
Okay.
Otherwise, you could get a load of marbles.
Yeah.
And there's no flavour in them then as well, because they haven't grown to their full extent then as well. And of course the fruit bushes, everybody has loads of fruit bushes growing, and the birds are swooning in, the crows are getting in. So very important to cover them over with netting, and that is the best thing really. Also as well, if you've herbs in the garden like the sage now or the parsley or anything like that you might be using around the Christmas, now is a great time to freeze them or dry them. There's so many different ways of doing the herbs, like as you say, the freezing, the drying or whatever, just to go through them. And you can even put them in ice cubes, freeze them in the ice cubes. You can pop your ice cube then into your stew or soups or whatever. But it's very important to do it this time of the year. Now the best time to do that, to pick them, is early in the morning. Because if you do it during the day and the sun is shining, a lot of the fragrance has gone out of it, a lot of the good has gone out of it, whereas they're at their best in the morning. So if you cut them in the morning and then you have the full flavour of them. They're easy they're easy dry, they're easy freeze, so you can get into that.
Brilliant. Well listen, we do always encourage people to contact us with any questions they might have, either to Radio Kerry or to put a comment underneath the Facebook page or YouTube page, and we will try and get to them. As always, Trish, you have been a world of knowledge. Thank you so much for all your tips, and I love the companion idea and bringing ladybugs into the garden and everything else. It's a fantastic thing. I think everyone should try and do it. Whether you have roses or not, this show hopefully has given you lots of information. That is pretty much it from all of us here at Boyles of Killorglin. For myself and Trish and Dave, our cameraman, thanks for everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again next time. Happy gardening.